This is Victoria 3, and this is European Universalis 4. This is Count Christo, and I am passionate about message settings. There's a David Mitchell sketch you should watch about people who are passionate about silly things. It's me. Hello, it's me. I'm passionate about message settings. So let's talk about message settings for a minute and why EU4 does them dramatically better. And there's a few other Victoria 2 UI issues that we'll touch on along the way. It's got better since launch. I hope it continues to get better and can someday be as good as EU4 was at launch. But let's talk about it. So first, let's look at EU4 and think about a few ways in which information is communicated to the player. First off, I'm going to need to move my camera so that you can see the things that I am talking about. In fact, I'm going to put myself weirdly over here, which is going to be very strange. Okay, so we have a log here. The log is bounded in size and it's not very large. I am playing on a 1440p screen, you will notice. And if we go back to Victoria, let me switch which one I'm capturing for a second. This is now Victoria without any UI scaling. So it looks, when you start the game, like you have quite a lot of room in the UI. I've turned off my UI mods, by the way, which is why the map looks like a flashbang rather than it does in my how it looks in my campaigns, if you're not familiar with playing Victoria 3. Amazingly, this is how saturated the vanilla map is. But I'm not just trying to be native, so let's talk about the UI. So there's a certain amount of information I can immediately get in the UI, right? What are my ongoing diplomatic actions, things like that. And I have shortcut keys to go to different tabs of the outliner, which is very nice and I very much appreciate. And I can customize this tab of the outliner. Unfortunately, I can only customize in that I can open, close ongoing diplomatic actions. I can't have that as an element in here where I care about some diplomatic actions and not others. And I can highlight journal entries, but even when I get rid of it, it's still wasting this much vertical space, which I don't like. But we're here to talk about message settings. I have to talk about the outliner briefly because when you get a bunch of things you care about in the outliner, like let's say I care about the price of coal, fabric, furniture, glass, grain, iron, lead. I'm trying to pick things that I really do care about often in game. Paper, arms, tools, transportation, wood. What have I missed? I mean, there's more goods you'll invent later, so I'll just add a couple of others to represent, oil and rubber and all that. Okay, so we have already reached a situation where if I care about all of my interest groups and how happy they are, which if they're not marginalized, I do, and I care about my political movements, which again, I do. Oh, I think that's not really true. Probably you only care realistically about a few political movements at a time. So let's just care about 3 political movements. I definitely care about my political lobbies that are active. I definitely want to generally see my army, but maybe we could do away with the army and navy because we can just do control 5 in order to do and control our armies. And because of the way that the Victoria army system works, you don't have to care about your armies at all times, which, Lambert, is a good thing. But anyway, so I've got the things that I care about in the outliner, and there's more stuff I would rather have here. If I had a choice, I would also I've got the market, right? But I might also want to be looking at, do I have enough infrastructure in some of my states? Things like that. In other words, there's more than I would want to look at than can possibly be expressed in this outliner. Now, of course, Victoria and Victoria 3's developers know this. They understand that this problem exists, so they've given us multiple tabs. But ideally, I want these things to be proactively informing me about problems. One way I can do that is by seeing this number has gone orange. Let's say I really want to try and keep clothes cheap, trying to push up my standard of living. I'm not a very good Victoria player, by the way, so if I say things that doesn't make sense, just take it in the spirit that I intend it. But let's say I wanted to push the price of clothes down so I could increase the standard of living in my country because people will be able to afford more clothes, raise their wealth and the standard of living, all that good stuff. So I want to keep an eye on it. One thing I could do is have it here and just keep an eye on this 26%. But there are some things that I'm not going to be able to fit in here. For example, being alerted about specific things being expensive. So maybe I'm not going to notice that grain is at whatever it is, plus 40, and therefore it's appearing here. The problem with this system is that just look at the visual layout of this screen. It's very obvious to me that you are not intended to leave this screen open, right? I don't think I need to argue too strenuously in favor of that position. This screen is clearly meant to be opened when something new appears, read and then dismissed. You can set the hotkey. I don't remember if I've changed it from default. I'm using tack, the not. If you alt click it, it's the button that does not in formal logic. You know the one I mean? In the here, I know how I can show you. That one. That is the button that I'm talking about. That's the button that I'm using to open and close this, which I like because it's accessible when your hand is on WASD, which I need for, all my other hotkeys. So the idea is to open and close it repeatedly. But why? For what purpose? Why would I want to open and close this when I see new things when I could simply, sorry, let me transition over here, when I could simply have a good alert system. Wait for it. Don't comment there's an alert system in Victoria 3. We'll get to it. Okay, so why would I have that when instead I can have things here? And I still have the outliner, and credit where it is due. The Victoria 3 outliner, inheriting somewhat from the Stellaris outliner, at least in design. I don't know if it literally did in terms of, borrowed ideas or whatever, but following on the tradition of Paradox from Stellaris, directly or no, the outliner in EU4 is not very customizable. I can change what's in it, but I can't, certainly not easily, change the order of things in it. I can deselect and then reselect, and it puts the last thing you selected at the bottom of the list, but this is bad, right? Credit where it's due, this has been in the game for a long time, but this could do with an upgrade, basically. The ability to specifically care about things in one tab, the ability to have multiple tabs. The outliner is better, and I'm not going to disagree with that. The problem is message settings and alerts, because in EU4, realistically, unless you want to show provinces, which is a psychotic thing to have in the outliner, you're realistically not often going to run out of vertical space. And of course, I'm talking from the perspective of someone with a 4040p screen. If you're on a 1080p screen, it's easier to run out of space, but still kind of difficult. The problem is not just that Victoria 3 has a worse outliner. It doesn't. It has a better outliner, a substantially better outliner. The problem is that there's more that you would want to put in it, because of course I'm playing EU4, not EU5. I don't care about goods prices, which are one of the things that dominate my outliner in Victoria 3, because I'm constantly trying to build things informed by the goods prices. And when you're building things, there's no goods prices shown on the building screen, which is questionable, but we can, that's a whole different thing. There's also a log. So the log in EU4 is, in my opinion, mostly useless, almost entirely useless, but it doesn't need to be useful. And why is that? And there are two reasons. One, these alerts, I've spoken about this before, so I won't belabor the point too much. These alerts are the best alert system in any video game ever. They display very clearly, very visually, what's going on, what's the relevant thing. They've got icons, they're small. Crucially, they're small. They are amazing. They're red if the game considers them really bad, yellow if they're just a bit of a warning, and green if they're more like an opportunity or something minor. So instantly you get an advantage from that. And then not only that, and let's get some yellow ones so we can see. Not only that, the shape of the banners is different depending on how extreme they are. One big chevron, two little cutouts, or some crenellations. You can see visually, really easily, and they're thematically fitting in the time frame. They look like kind of tapestries announcing something, or banners. They're brilliant. And there's tons of them, and you can customize which ones appear. Great. Some of those things also apply to Victoria 3. Some of them, notably, do not. So let me switch back over to Victoria 3. We only have one example here. Let me just pause recording and change the game state a little bit so we have more examples. In fact, I'll just switch over to Qing, which I think will make it easier to demonstrate. So here we are over in Qing, and we've got some new alerts. They are colored based on severity. Good. Well done. Beats CK2. And CK3? I don't know. Maybe also CK, I think also CK3. CK3 had cooler art though. But, and then we've got all these pop-ups and we have this thing being like alerts. There's new things. Okay. So let's say I don't want to be opening and closing this all the time. I should stress, by the way, this seems like a relatively good tool for people who are new to the game. If you play this game for 500 hours, you're new to the game for whatever, however long, whatever portion of that you want to say. I know some will jokingly say 500. It's a meme. It's wrong, but it's fine. Let's say you're new to the game for 25 hours. After 25 hours, you more or less understand the UI if you've been paying attention. And then you're not new anymore. And then this is a bad system for 475 hours. So the fact that it's good for new players is fine, but the system also needs to be good for older players. So let's say I want to have these things show up as alerts instead, because I don't want to be opening and closing this increasingly massive list and opening and closing these every time I want to check what's going on and hovering over them all to dismiss them. I want them to show up as alerts. Okay, let's do that and let's compare the experience to EU4. So if I were in EU4, let's hop over there. If I were in EU4 and an event happened, so here we go, a whole bunch of events have happened. Let's say I want to know when this event happens. Okay, I can go in here and I can choose what I want it to be. Amazing. Or if a situation like disputed succession doesn't bother me, I can shift right click and it goes away and it adds it to my disabled alerts. Perfect. I want to get a disabled alert back. I get on this list, I click on them, click on all of them, and then they'll come back up. Amazing. You can build province improvements, a pop-up I have never wanted to see. So I'll shift click, right click, it goes away. I can also right click and it'll dismiss until the event next happens, which is useful. There is of course no equivalent situation menu, thank goodness. But if I wanted to move things back and forth, so if I wanted to move things back and forth rather, that's not something that goes on. But with events, I can just click on them and say, okay, I want to have this. And if this had popped up on my screen, I could have gone in here and said, yes, tell me about this. Okay. Crucially, it goes deeper than that, but we shouldn't talk about events yet. Sorry, I'm getting off topic. Let's keep talking about alerts. So we have these alerts. You can fit many, many, many alerts on this screen. And if I hover over this, I can see that I have a free advisor slot in admin, dip, and military. And if I hover over this, I can see I can summon a diet. What's a better example? Some loans. I can hover over this. I can see I have 5 loans. I can hover over this. I can see I have 3 rivals that I don't have. If I had a bunch of claims, I'd hover over it and it would say you have all these bunch of claims. If I could build province improvements in multiple places, it'd be one alert. I can hover over it. It would say you can build province improvements in all these multiple places. Let's compare that to Victoria 3. So in Victoria 3, right now, I have an army that's low organization. Okay, let's artificially make another of our armies low organization. Plain blue banner, for example. Let's put all of these troops into the plain blue banner. Oh, did I send the generals as well? I didn't mean to send the generals as well. That might mess it up. No matter. Let's put these guys into the plain blue banner as well. I'll just get this done off camera. Now I have 2 armies that are at low organization. And what's happened? Well, there's 2 alerts, of course, because where in EU4 there'd be 1 alert that I could hover over, and it would inform me you have 2 armies at low organization. List the armies, list the organization. Instead, what has happened here is just a direct translation of what would happen here. Now, I'm speaking from a position of ignorance, but what it looks like to me is a situation menu first UI design. Here, you want multiple items within a category, but then when the time comes to translate them into alerts, it just does the same thing. But of course, the categories aren't present in the alerts thing, in the alerts bar, so they just put them here. Also, they start them further along, meaning that there's less space to use, rather than starting them here and having them come along, because I assume the jolt upwards would be seen as negative. Just make this bar longer. There's so much more information that should be in this bar. There are mods that do that, though they don't do it as much as I would like. Victoria 3. Victoria 2 is a game I think is worse than Victoria 3. I'll admit that at this point because I've suckered you into watching so far. But its top bar gives you more information, which I do appreciate. So if I had 10 armies that were a low organization, I'm going to have a whole load of alerts, which would be very annoying. Of course, I could put them into the situation menu, but then I'm going to have to be doing this all the time to check if I have any armies on low organization, which is going to be a pain, or I have to always be on this screen and have my army highlighted, whereas, as I've said, you don't have room for that. You're going to have to be switching back and forth to get the information. Where in EU4, I would simply have been able to have one drop down which said you have all of these different loads. Now, of course, these aren't directly comparable situations, but I think you understand what I mean about the comparison. So next, we have some pop-ups. What's happened? A power block embassy has been accepted. Okay, I would like to have more. I would like that to be more prominent. Okay, so I've got a message settings button, and I click that. Okay, and it appears to have taken me to the whole message settings. Just a quick reminder: EU4, a game 10 years-ish, 11 years, 9 years, a great deal older than Victoria 3. Lessons could have been learned. You click on this, and you instantly change the settings, and it defines what it is. When a foreign nation enters into alliance with another country, do I want an icon, display and log, pop-up window, show on map, etc.? Oddly, that's wrong, because right now it's displaying in the log. Oh no, I guess, sorry, this isn't a log. This is an event in this window. But anyway, I can immediately change it, and it tells me what the event is. Meanwhile, over in Victoria 3, I can click on this and it takes me here. So then I guess, okay, it's a power block embassy. What's that? Okay, well, I know what I can do. I'm in the message settings window. That's okay. I'll just search. Oh, doesn't seem to be, that's where it is. It opens the wrong tab. Fantastic. I could just search if I were unsure where it was. For example, a diplomatic proposal, brackets, third party. I can have it in the feed. I can have it pop up at the top, or nothing. Okay, fine. But I can't search for it, which would be very helpful. If only, and I'm sure you see where this is going, there were a system, whoops, wrong thing, whereby you had all of the possible events broken down into a whole load of different categories. And if you wanted to search, you could do that. And not only that, but from the search window, you can directly change what kind of alert you get. And you have it on 5 different levels, not just a pop-up or not just a toast or in the log, but a pop-up that pauses the game. In that case, it would be, I guess, a toast that pauses the game. I don't like toasts because I'm often hitting escape to close windows and it automatically closes the toast, and then the toast is not in the log, and I can't have it both in the toast and in the log, which I can do in EU4. I can have it in the log and I can have a pop-up. Why? But you can see what I mean. You can search. You can find what you want to change. And when you change it, you can change it on 2 different axes, both in the log and a pop-up. And when it's a pop-up, what kind of pop-up would you like it to be? Then, as if this were not already enough, there is another layer. There are interesting countries and not interesting countries in these games. Imperator Rome, and I'll make a video about this at some point, failed because it had too few interesting countries. But that's not what we mean. What we mean is interesting countries to you as the player. So I'm playing as Austria in this case. I probably care about the electors, France, Hungary, Ottomans, England, Denmark, Poland, maybe Papal States, maybe Venice, but I'm going to pick who I'm interested in, and I can change it over time. And I can have the game pick for me. It's amazing. It's this button, isn't it? Yeah. So who's interesting? Do I want to do my neighbors and so on? Do I want to let the game guess who it thinks I'm going to be interested in? Which in this case, I think it might have picked everyone in the HRE. No, I guess that's everyone I border or like nearly border. No, it is. I think that's everyone I border. And plus rivals, I guess. And then I can change the message settings based on who's interesting. How good is that? So I can specifically say, I want to know about what's happening in the world when it's happening to France, because France is going to be relevant for my game. That's what's important. Meanwhile, over in Victoria 3, I can change just feed this and not. Okay, I can pause. Good. That's worth knowing. Pause in the feed. That's awful. But I can't change it so it's a toast and in the feed, which would be useful for me as someone who hits escape to close windows just as toasts pop up about once every 30 minutes when playing this game. And I can't change who's interesting to me. The fact that this goes to the wrong tab, okay, I'll excuse that. That's just a bug as opposed to design that I dislike. I don't say bad design. I mean, I probably have at various other points in the game, in the video rather, but I'll call it design that I don't like. But it goes to the wrong tab. Okay, fair enough. So I show all settings. Okay, I can pause on pop-up events, on pop-up, pause and pop-up on events. What? Okay, yes, so it's cool. So you can do that. I can have pop-up or toast or feed or none. Cool. Now, why? What does this do then? Surely these are... Ah, this is a secondary setting above this one. Fair enough, fair enough. So if you have this unchecked, you ignore that check, I guess. Why can't I search this screen? Why don't I have interesting nations? And why don't I have the ability to both have it in the toast and in the feed, or both the pop-up and in the feed? That would be a great improvement. And that would be how it has been in EU4 for many, many years, and it's better. And then we have the problem of these. So you might think I'm exaggerating the problem. If you want to not use this current situation menu, you can just move things over. So I can go in here and I can take all these things that are alerts and I can make them, sorry, I can take all these things that are actions and I can make them alerts. So we'll just do that, shall we? Okay, so right now I have 2 inactive trade routes. That's 2 pop-ups. I have 2 provinces with low market access, and I have 2 armies with low. And that and 2 things with expensive goods. And that generates 8 pop-ups. If iron is expensive in your market and a government good, so I guess like arms would be a better example, and there's a shortage, you're going to get 3 pop-ups for 1 good. If you get blockaded, you're going to get so many pop-ups your head will spin. Simply because it really feels like, again, I don't know, but it really feels like the game was designed for the situation menu, which I now can't open because there's nothing in it, but it was designed for the situation menu, and then the pop-ups were added afterwards to meet criticism. But they don't function. It doesn't feel like they were designed in order to actually meet the needs that pop-ups meet in... Oh, we already lost the war. There we go. It doesn't feel like they were designed to meet the need that pop-ups need. It doesn't even sort them by type. So we've got low organization showing up in different places, let alone have it be 1 pop-up. But I am beginning to ramble. So, my goodness, look at this. Low convoys. What is that? Does that mean dangerous? Yeah, it's that we've recently lost... Are you telling me I've recently lost convoys in every node in the game? I guess that doesn't show you where they're lost, just that my convoy network connected to that node has lost them. It's weird. Anyway, those are the negatives. Here are the positives. Victoria 3 is obviously being actively developed and its UI is getting better. Adding in and there are ways in which it's better. Hotkeys to be able to move between tabs is fantastic. The fact that the hotkeys are different in different places is a bit weird. I don't know why 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 does nothing on this screen, but on this screen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 goes through the tabs, but it's control 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I guess I could probably change that actually. It might be that I have already changed that and I'm complaining about my own hotkeys. But anyway, there's a lot of things that don't have hotkeys, which should have hotkeys. For example, reform government is just one example, or going to the building registry is another example. There's a great deal of buttons that don't have hotkeys that should have hotkeys, but that's not what the video is about. I'm beginning to ramble, so I'll call it there. Main differences. Well, first off, this should open the correct tab, but no matter. War goal is not a useful notification type. War goal is not what you need to see. Let's end the video looking at a good message setting system. What do I want to see when it's about a war? I want to see joins a war on enemy side, joins your war on the enemy side, nation or subject. Maybe I only care about nations because I know that subjects are all going to join on the enemy side, things like that. Do I want to know who they declared on? Is it by an interesting person or not? The level of granularity that is in here. I mean, look at how many things I can scroll past on here. The level of granularity is amazing. And to use a phrase used in the Great Eminence Dev Diaries, rest in peace, it is optional complexity. You don't have to engage with this system. You can just leave it at the default settings. That would be fine. Where even are they? Are they within here? Is there no way to access the message settings except this button? I'm probably just not. I'm probably just ignorant. I probably just don't know where it is. But look at how many fewer there are. It's crazy. It's crazy. The level of granularity that you lose. And this my thesis. I've rambled. I should have scripted the video. Can you tell that I never script these videos? You probably can. The thesis is the game of Victoria 3 feels flavorless. It isn't. There's lots going on. To an extent that what's going on is less dynamic and less varied than in EU4. But one of the problems is you can't possibly keep track of what's going on with the countries that you care about because you can't keep track of only the countries that you care about. If I'm playing Qing, I'm not going to know about all the interesting things happening to the British East India Company, Russia, Japan, and the UK, maybe. Maybe those are the ones that I would choose to care about. Because I have to choose to care about everybody or nobody. So not only is this design, and I'm trying to choose my words, not only is this design that I find poor, it's design that actively hurts the main criticism of the game. Because I can't choose who to get notifications about, I will ignore notifications because I can't possibly be brought to care about all of the people in all of the areas that I have an interest in. It just won't happen. Likewise, because I can't choose how I can't have these pop-ups consolidate, I'm going to have to use the situation menu. So the complaint about the situation menu is not just about the situation menu. You can't fix it by just kind of transposing the data about the y-axis. Is it the y-axis that you'd be transposing about to go from vertical to horizontal? I don't know. Look, I'm not good at graphs. But you can't just fix the situation menu like that because then you get this nonsense. Anyway, I'm just complaining. I started the video with a cohesive thesis and ended it with rambling, but that's okay. I hope you enjoyed anyway. Victoria 3, good game. I've been playing it recently. Expect a like 6-hour edited video of me playing as Great Britain coming up in the next few days. Can you believe that I think it's a good game? Because I do. And that series is me being very positive, at least trying to be as positive as I can about a game that I do think is good, but could be better.